Hey, this video is video 4.5e, going in depth on the water cycle. If you haven't already, make sure to check out video 4.5a first to get some of the basics about nutrient cycles. We'll learn in our biochemistry unit that water has a lot of important functions for living things. In plants, the hydrogens of water actually are torn away from the oxygens in water during photosynthesis. And then the hydrogens become part of glucose, C6H12O6. Those H12s are from water. And then the oxygens of water are just released into the atmosphere. In all living things, water is considered a universal solvent because it can dissolve so many different chemicals to aid in chemical reactions. And in addition, water helps moderate temperature of living organisms because water is a good temperature buffer. So unlike other nutrients, water doesn't really become different macromolecules. Instead, water is needed for so many different functions just by staying as water molecules. Here's a simplified overview of the water cycle. In its abiotic form, water is found in the atmosphere as water vapor or in bodies of water as liquid water. Water gets from the atmosphere to Earth by precipitation, and then once on Earth's surface, plants absorb water through their roots, and animals drink water. Water gets out of living things in a lot of ways, but two ways include evaporation and transpiration. Once inside of living things, water can move through the food web by eating. Here's the water cycle represented as a diagram. And let's check out the abiotic reservoirs first. Water can be found in bodies of water like oceans and lakes and rivers, and water can also be found in the atmosphere as water vapor. That's sometimes you can think about that as clouds. And finally, water can be found in an abiotic reservoir of underground water called groundwater. Now, most of the time, water cycles between these abiotic reservoirs. Water falls from the atmosphere to the land by the process called precipitation. And then water gets from the surface, whether it's surface water or the land surface, by evaporation. Now, water can move from land into bodies of water by a process called runoff. Now, unlike other nutrients, water doesn't really need to be fixed. Instead, we can just go straight to assimilation. Water is assimilated into plants when plants absorb the water from soil. And then consumers get water themselves just by drinking the water. Also, when consumers eat, they get water from their food. Release of water happens when living things decompose. Water will evaporate from the detritus, the decomposing stuff from living things, but also when decomposers break down dead things, the decomposition process releases water too. Animals release water in their solid and liquid waste, you know what I'm talking about, and plants undergo a critical process called transpiration or evapotranspiration to release water. Transpiration is worth a closer look. So here's an easy diagram of transpiration. Transpiration starts when plants take up water through their roots. The water travels up the plant stems and to the leaves, and then a lot of water evaporates from the leaves into the atmosphere. So even though plants use water for photosynthesis, most of the water absorbed by the plant just passes right through without even being used for photosynthesis. So this process of water movement from the soil through a plant and into the atmosphere is called transpiration. So let's recap. The major reservoirs for water include bodies of water in the atmosphere as abiotic reservoirs, and then living things. Water is just found as regular old water in living things and in abiotic reservoirs. It doesn't really change like form or get broken apart too much. But plants can. Plants can break down water and use the hydrogens from water to make glucose. Plants fix and assimilate water by absorbing the water from the soil into their roots, and consumers assimilate water by drinking water and eating other things. Finally, living things release water when they decompose, Consumers release water in their wastes, and plants release most of their water by evapotranspiration, taking water from the soil, through the plant, and back into the atmosphere.